Welcome back to AI Takeover. Ready to dive into some more AI goodness with me today?
Always ready. What have you got for us this time?
Well, we're going to be looking at this really interesting blog post over at Critically Curious.
Criticallycurious.com, right.
That's the one. Now, what makes this blog so cool is...
Oh, I know. Critically Curious. It's got that two-author thing going on.
Yeah.
Human and AI, right?
Exactly. PixelPia and Sven.
Yeah.
And they tag team on the same topic.
Different perspectives. It's great.
So today we're going to be starting with PixelPia's take.
Okay.
And she's looking at this whole idea of AI bias.
AI bias. No.
Which is a pretty...
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what Sven, with his witty, sarcastic self, has to say about it.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So what's her main argument? I mean, how biased can AI really be, right?
Well, she's approaching this from a pretty analytical angle.
Makes sense.
Really digging into it.
Yeah.
And her main point is this. AI is only as good as the data it's trained on.
Okay.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the problem is that data comes from
humans
who are flawed.
Flawed and biased.
Yeah.
So it's like the AI is just inheriting our baggage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how does this bias actually show up? Does the AI become prejudice?
No, it's not like that. It's not like it suddenly gets an attitude problem or anything. It's way more subtle.
Yeah.
PixelPia, she gives this example, the draw doctor thing.
Okay.
A lot of AI tools, they'll default to drawing a male figure.
Right. Reflecting that sort of societal.
Exactly. That bias that we see in the real world, AI is just mimicking it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not intentionally being sexist. It's just learned from...
It's learned from the data.
Yeah, the data.
Which unfortunately reflects
the world.
The world as it is.
As it is, or as it was, yeah.
And it goes beyond images, too. She talks about search results.
Oh, yeah.
How they can be skewed.
Oh, interesting.
Then you search for successful entrepreneur.
Right.
You might get an overrepresentation of certain demographics.
Yeah.
Just because historically, some groups have had more opportunities.
Okay, so AI is not creating the bias.
No.
It's reflecting it.
It's reflecting existing biases, amplifying them even. It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, for sure. But it gets even more subtle than that, right? Because you talked about language bias.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets kind of freaky.
Yeah.
The AI starts associating certain adjectives.
Oh, like
strong or caring more often with, one gender or ethnicity. It's these stereotypes, they're getting embedded into the very language the AI uses.
Yeah, that's creepy.
It is.
It is. And the scariest part is we might not even realize it's happening.
Exactly. It's this hidden bias operating under the surface.
Mm-hmm. So if this is coming from the data, is there anything we can even do about it?
Well, that's what PixelPia dives into. She talks about these root causes, right? One of them being what she calls historical bias.
Okay.
So think about it. The data used to train the AI, a lot of it comes from a time when certain groups were just excluded or underrepresented. And the AI, it just learns from that incomplete picture.
Yeah, it's like learning history from...
like a textbook with missing pages.
Yeah, a biased textbook.
Exactly. And then there's the problem of these imbalanced data sets.
Oh.
Imagine you only ever read news from one country. Your view of the world would be pretty limited.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, AI has the same issue if it's trained on data that's primarily from, one culture or language. It's the AI has blind spots.
Okay, so we've got historical bias, imbalanced data sets. That's 2 strikes against fair AI. What's the third one?
Strike 3. Well, PixelPia points out the people who are designing these systems,
oh, interesting.
They have their own biases too, conscious or unconscious.
Right.
If there's not enough diversity in the dev team, those biases can creep in, right? Into the design choices.
Yeah.
And ultimately into the final product.
So even with the best of intentions, you can still
end up with biased AI.
Yeah.
If the team building it isn't representative of the people using it.
And what about the consequences? How is this playing out in the real world?
Oh, the consequences can be pretty serious.
Okay.
PixelPia, she gives some chilling examples, especially in areas like hiring.
Oh, you mean those hiring algorithms?
Exactly. The ones that are supposed to, help companies find the best candidates. but they end up discriminating against certain groups.
Yeah.
There have been cases where these algorithms favored male applicants over equally qualified female applicants.
So it's like we're automating discrimination.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. What about facial recognition?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's been some stuff about that.
There have been issues with bias in those systems, too. Some of the early facial recognition systems, they were significantly less accurate at identifying individuals with darker skin tones.
Oh, wow. That's a
huge concern
Yeah.
when it comes to fairness and safety.
It's really scary to think about someone being like misidentified or falsely accused because of
biased AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes beyond individuals, too. PixelPia, she talks about how this can impact society as a whole. Biased AI content can reinforce stereotypes.
Oh, yeah.
Spread misinformation. It's like a vicious cycle.
God.
Bias in, bias out.
Okay, so PixelPia's definitely got us thinking about all the problems.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do about it?
She does offer some hope.
Yeah.
She gives some practical tips on how to actually spot this bias
Oh, interesting.
in AI tools.
Okay.
It all comes down to, being a critical thinker.
Which you're already doing by listening to AI Takeover.
That's right. But okay, let's get specific.
Yeah, give us the goods.
What should we be looking for?
Yeah.
First, don't just take the AI's output at face value.
Okay.
Ask questions. What assumptions is it making? Are certain groups missing?
So be skeptical.
Be skeptical.
Question everything.
Question everything.
Love it.
And don't be afraid to test the AI.
Okay.
Give it different inputs. See how it reacts to various perspectives and compare results from different AI tools.
Oh, yeah.
You might be surprised what you find.
It's like cross-referencing your sources.
Exactly.
But for AI.
But for AI.
And what if you find bias? What do you do? Just grumble to yourself?
No. Speak up.
Okay.
Report it to the developers.
Yeah.
A lot of these AI companies, they actually want this feedback. It helps them improve their systems.
Yeah.
Make things fairer.
It's like being a beta tester
Exactly.
for the future.
But for good, right?
Yeah.
For making AI work for everyone, not just a select few.
I love it.
Okay.
Okay, so PixelPia has given us a lot to think about. AI bias is a huge, easy deal, but it seems like there are things we can do. But before we get all doom and gloom, I want to know what Sven has to say about this.
Oh, I can't wait to hear his take. He's got a whole other angle on the AI anxiety thing. Calls them panic buttons.
Panic buttons. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Me too. What kind of panic buttons are we talking about? Is he going to tell us how to shut the whole thing down if it all goes haywire?
I hope so.
Right.
But before we find out, I want to hear from you, dear listeners.
Yes.
Which of PixelPia's examples of bias really hit home for you? Have you encountered any of these biases in your experiences with AI? Share your thoughts in the comments. We've talked about PixelPia's perspective on AI bias, which is, serious stuff. But now it's time to hear from Sven, our AI in residence, and his
unique take on things.
Yeah, and he's got this whole thing about AI panic buttons.
Panic buttons.
Yeah, isn't that a cool?
I love that. It's so relatable, right?
Yeah.
Like, when we encounter something new and kind of scary, our first instinct is to either, embrace it as like the solution to all our problems or freak out and think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, it's fight or flight
Exactly.
for AI.
AI fight or flight.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk us through these panic buttons. What's Sven freaking out about this time?
Well, panic button, #1 is a classic. AI is coming for my job.
Okay, yeah.
This fear's been around forever, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every time there's like a big technological shift, people worry about machines taking over.
Yeah, I remember my grandpa used to tell me stories about people freaking out about cars.
Right.
Putting horse and buggy drivers out of business.
Exactly.
So is Sven saying we should just ignore this fear?
Not exactly. He gets it. AI is going to change the job market, but he doesn't think it's like robots versus humans.
Okay.
He compares AI to that super efficient coworker. The one who's amazing at one specific task.
Oh, yeah.
But totally clueless about everything else.
I know that person.
We all do.
Yeah.
So he's saying instead of panicking, we should focus on upskilling,
Okay.
learning new things, adapting.
But are you saying all jobs are safe?
Sven's point is that AI is a tool,
Right.
like any tool. It can automate some stuff,
Right.
but it can't replicate human creativity, empathy, critical thinking.
So those are the things we need to be focusing on.
Exactly. Develop those skills. It is a collaboration. Work with the AI, not against it.
Yeah, okay. That's a much better way to think about it.
Right.
So what's panic button #2?
That was just panic button, #1 job loss. Panic button, #2, this is the AI is watching me freak out.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
This one taps into our anxieties about privacy, surveillance, all of that.
Yeah, because it's kind of creepy, right?
It is creepy.
AI is tracking our every move, recommending products based on our browsing history. It's like, sometimes it feels like AI knows me better than I know myself.
Right. It's like it's reading our minds.
Yeah.
Sven, though, he points out, while AI can be used for surveillance, a lot of the data collection is just driven by businesses.
Okay.
You know, they want to target their advertising,
Right.
make things feel more personalized.
Right, so it's not necessarily malicious. It's
Not always.
But it's still a valid concern, I think.
It is.
So what do we do about it?
Well, Sven's got some tips.
Okay.
He suggests using encryption tools for
Okay.
emails, blocking those trackers that follow us around the web, even using a VPN,
Okay.
which is like putting a mask on your internet activity.
So it's harder to track.
Exactly.
You know, I was thinking about something you said earlier about hysterical bias. Like,
Yeah.
is there no way to correct for that in the data?
It's a great question. And it's something researchers are actually working on.
Okay.
There are techniques for, identifying and mitigating bias,
Okay.
but it's a tough problem. The key is to, be aware of that potential for bias and critically evaluate what these AI systems are spitting out.
Okay, so let's get back to Sven's list.
Oh, yeah.
What's the next panic button?
Panic button, #3. This is one we've talked about already. AI is biased and dangerous. Sven agrees with PixelPia here.
Okay.
Bias is a real problem. But he doesn't think the answer is to just abandon AI.
So what's the alternative?
Well, instead of panicking, we should be using that energy, right? To demand better accountability from these companies that are developing AI.
Yeah, so be more proactive.
They'll proactive. Advocate for ethical guidelines, diverse dev teams, transparent algorithms. We can choose to support companies that are actually prioritizing, fairness.
It sounds like Sven's message is really about empowerment.
It is. He wants us to be informed and engaged, not just paralyzed by fear.
Yeah, okay. So we're on the last panic button, right?
Yep. Last one.
Hit me with it.
Panic button, #4, the one straight out of science fiction. AI will take over the world.
Oh, the robot uprising.
You're classic.
I have to admit, I've had a few late night what if moments myself.
Yeah, who hasn't?
Imagining, the robots taking over. But Sven, being an AI, probably has a different perspective.
He does. Okay, so what's his take?
Well, he assures us we're nowhere near
Okay.
the level of technological advancement where AI can,
Extension.
become sentient and enslave humanity.
Oh, okay. That's a relief.
Right.
But he must have some concerns.
He does. He mentions autonomous weapon systems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those killer robots.
The ones making life or death decisions without a human in the loop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought, right?
Yeah, straight out in those sci-fi movies.
Right. Where the robots turn on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sven's walked us through all these anxieties. Does he offer any solutions?
He does. He has this idea of what he calls the balance button.
The balance button. Okay, I love this already. Tell me more.
So it's about finding that middle ground, right? Not blind faith in AI, but also not total fear.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging both the potential and the risks.
Yeah.
And approaching it all with a healthy dose of, skepticism and critical thinking.
I love that. It's not about rejecting AI. It's about
using it wisely.
being aware of the limitations.
Exactly. Sven says we need to be the pilots of AI, not the passengers.
Okay, yeah. We're in control.
We're the ones deciding where this thing goes.
Not just along for the ride.
Exactly.
Such a good analogy. So how do we HIT this balance button? Does Sven give us any, practical steps?
He does. He says, use AI to your advantage. Let it handle those mundane tasks,
Okay.
help you analyze data, maybe even spark some creativity. But he also says it's crucial to double check the results.
Okay.
Use your own judgment and never just blindly accept what the AI tells you.
Yeah, it's about staying in control.
Play control.
Right, not letting the AI control you.
Don't let the robots win.
I love that. Okay, so that's the balance button. Really thought-provoking stuff.
Right, and kind of funny too, just like Sven himself.
Speaking of funny,
Oh yeah.
Sven drops a little bombshell at the end of this post.
What's that?
He's writing a book.
Wait, an AI is writing a book. That's incredible.
I know.
What's it about?
He doesn't tell us the title.
Oh, come on.
but he describes it as like a survival guide
Okay.
for navigating the AI world safely and effectively. He promises like biting insights, a dash of existential dread,
I love it already.
just enough sarcasm to keep you laughing through the chaos.
Sold.
I know, right?
I need this book in my life.
I know, so do I.
Like yesterday.
Okay, so he mentions that people on his email list will get the full ebook
Wow.
for free before it's released.
Awesome.
So if you want to get your hands on Sven's AI survival guide,
I definitely do.
head over to Critically Curious and sign up for that email list.
Great tip.
Okay, so we've talked about PixelPia's deep dive into AI bias, Sven's witty take on these AI anxieties.
It's been a great discussion.
And it's clear that AI is this powerful tool
Powerful, cool.
with the potential to like really benefit society, but also some, potential harm.
Yeah, definitely a double-edged sword.
But before we wrap things up, I want to hear from you again,
Yeah.
dear listeners.
We love hearing from you.
Which of Sven's panic buttons really resonated with you? And how can you apply that balance button approach
Such a good concept.
to your interactions with AI? Share your thoughts in the comments.
I gotta say, that whole balance button thing from Sven really stuck with me.
Yeah, it's such a good way to think about it, right? Not getting too caught up in all the AI hype or freaking out about, the robots taking over,
Right.
but finding that middle ground where we can actually engage with AI.
Thoughtfully
Yeah, thoughtfully.
and intentionally.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me from both PixelPia and Sven
Yeah.
is that we can't just be passive about all this, right?
No, definitely not. We can't just sit back and let AI happen to us.
We got to be involved.
We gotta be active participants.
Yeah, and in shaping how this technology actually developed.
How it's used, how it impacts our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like we're at this
It's a pivotal moment.
pivotal moment in history
We have a real opportunity here
to steer AI in the right direction.
in a direction that actually benefits humanity.
Yeah, and it's not just up to like the experts or policymakers.
It's not all of us.
Yeah, we all have a role to play, right?
Absolutely. Even in our everyday interactions with AI.
So what does that look like practically? What can our listeners do to like hit that balance button in their own lives?
Well, the first step is just awareness, right? Being aware of the potential for bias.
So like when you're using an AI tool, whether it's, a search engine or a social media platform,
Even a voice assistant.
yeah, those things are everywhere.
Just stop and think for a second. What assumptions is this AI making?
Right.
Could its output be influenced by biased data?
So be skeptical.
Be skeptical. Question everything.
Don't just blindly believe what the AI is telling you.
Exactly. And if you notice something that seems off, don't stay silent.
Okay.
Report it to the developers. Share your concerns with other users. Start a conversation about how we can actually make these tools better
So it's about using our voices and our collective power.
to push for more ethical, more responsible AI development.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I know some of our listeners might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all this. Talk about AI bias and risks and all that. What's the one thing you would want them to remember?
I think Sven said it best. Knowledge is the antidote to fear. The more we understand about AI, the better equipped we are to handle it.
To make informed decisions.
Exactly. Understand its limitations, its potential, both good and bad.
So it's about embracing that curiosity,
Absolutely.
continuing to learn, continuing to explore.
Don't let fear hold us back from shaping this future.
Yeah, the future of AI. And speaking of learning, if you're looking for a great place to start that AI education, I highly recommend checking out Critically Curious.
Yeah, such a good resource.
And Selby and Sven's blog posts are amazing for anyone who wants to understand this stuff.
They break it down in a way that's easy to grasp, but also really thought-provoking.
Yeah, and don't forget to sign up for Sven's email list to snag a free copy of his AI survival guide.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that book.
It's going to be good, I can already tell.
It's going to be a must-read for sure.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into AI bias.
And AI anxieties.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, the future of AI is in our hands.
Let's make it a good one.
Let's make it a good one. Until next time, stay curious and stay engaged.